Welcome to the Savvy Radio Show with your host, Savvy Landlord. Up next is the best deal ever on Fridays. Check out all episodes on SavvyRadioshow.com.
What's going down, Savvy investors? It is best deal ever. I'm a little under the weather. No, that just rhymed. Ever weather. Anyway, this next deal is just, it's going to take a while to go through it. It's pretty remarkable. I almost don't believe it myself, but it's so true, and you can do it too. And without further ado, oh no, I can rhyme. You didn't know? Savvy. No, just playing. Anyway, how did I buy $700,000 worth of property? Well, first of all, let me say how I got here. First of all, a friend, you can call that individual a bird dog, tipped me on to an investor that had about 12 properties that wanted to sell. And you know, that individual, that bird dog, knew and kind of put me in connection with this investor. So I called the investor, and they had a portfolio of about 12 units, 12 different structures, and I made an offer on the properties, and things just didn't work out. Back then, I didn't know that this individual was struggling to survive. Apparently, back in April, I acquired 3 of the properties out of the 12, and I just wholesaled those. They were decent deals. They weren't amazing. I offered 70%. This investor, at the time, I didn't know what their motivation was. Just thought they were moving on. They were a big rehabber. And so I bought the 3 properties. I flipped them to 3 friends and made a little money, nothing spectacular, a couple $1,000s, but, you know, still grinding it out every day as a wholesaler, and moved on down the road. Well, during that process, that wholesaler was rehabbing a very large flip in the $400,000 range, about $465,000 range. And the market's still hot, and this individual threw in all of their chips to rehab this. They acquired the asset for about $200,000 and then got it done. I'm assuming $100,000 in rehab. I don't know the final details. But they put it on the market for $470-something thousand. Didn't sell. Choke out, die. And next thing you know, they closed that big deal for $365,000. And so basically, you could say they went under, but they didn't go under. Then rewind to September, and this individual called me on a Saturday crying, frustrated, not a giver-upper type of person, and said, I have to declare bankruptcy and I'm going out. And I just wanted to call you, see if you can help me in any way. Now, this is a Saturday, which is very unique that I'm even able to catch the phone. My kids weren't at the house at the time, and I was like, wow, this is crazy unique. And I just wanted to encourage this person. I mean, things happen. Most multimillionaires go bankrupt at one time and they come back. And I just thought this individual was calling me just for encouragement. And I was like, hyping it up. You okay? Everything's cool. And then, make a long story short, she's like, and it's a female actually. She's like, I'm going to walk away from these properties. And I said, why? Can't you save them? I don't have any money. I can barely make the payment. So before we get started, I just want to say thanks to Augie Bylight, creative genius. I wouldn't even be on this deal, would even come across my mind how it orchestrated. And I got to give much love to Thomas Morgan for educating me. I call him the land trust machine. So Augie Bylight, subject to master. So let me get into it. So I was talking to this investor. I was like, hey, gal, have you ever thought about me taking over the mortgage and working out some deal? She's like, Steven, I'm going bankrupt. I can't do that. I can't receive anything because I'm going to lose everything. I said, well, what I can do is I can take over your existing mortgage called subject to. And she's never heard of that before. And, it's relatively not new per se, but it's not something common knowledge. And I just said, hey, I just recently did a subject to. I kind of understand how it works and so on and so forth. And the crazy thing is the properties that the individual was walking away from was 7 properties valued around $700,000. And I was like, I would do whatever it takes to not walk away. And I tried everything to encourage this person and say, hey, but it was so, at the point, it was so bad that she had to claim bankruptcy. And at the time, when I'm talking to her, I'm just trying to be supportive, and I don't understand how can you walk away from something that's $700,000 bringing in such income. So I dig a little deeper and find out what's going on. Well, why, I offered a while back in April for only 6 of those houses. I offered $500,000, and we couldn't get that deal closed, and she was willing to sell them to me for that. But the problem that she had a gangster loan. She just recently refinanced. She did get them at she refinanced at 70%, but the loan that she got was a cross between a hard money loan and a regular loan. And I don't want to get into that right now, but basically she had this thing called a 5-year yield maintenance, AKA also known as prepaid penalty. So she did not have any money. She could not refinance the properties or sell them to me for $500,000, which I had the bank funding ready to roll, is because she couldn't come to closing to pay the yield maintenance. So that was the one stressor that jammed her up, and she was trapped. And so I was like, well, what can I do? Can I pay you? And she's like, no, you can't pay me. And I'm like, why not? Because I'm going bankrupt and it would cause all kinds of problems. And so I was like, let's make this work. And of course, she's like, what is a subject to? And I was like idiot Van Kallenberg, I was like, Google it up. Now, there's good and bad on the internet about subject to. So anyway, so I said, hey, let me look into this. I'll call you back on Monday. I call her, I do some research. I call some attorneys on Monday. I call a bankruptcy attorney. They gave me some amazing advice. I called Augie. I called everyone I knew. Can I take this over? And what can I do? Sure enough, I can. I took over the properties, and this is how it went down. So now you might be wondering, why would someone walk away from the properties in the situation? Well, I was like, hey, gal, send me your financials. It doesn't make sense. You should be grossing, these are $100,000 plus properties. You should be making at least $1,000 a month per unit. That should be about $7,000 a month. If I run the numbers, 6% or 7% on a $500,000 loan, you're roughly around 4 G's with taxes and insurance. You should be netting $2,500, $3,000 a month. Well, that's where the bomb blew up. Yep. She sent me all her financials like a forensic accountant. I went ballistic into her financials, and my heart dropped, broke, couldn't freaking breathe, started choking. This effing property manager was stealing from this investor to the tune of roughly around $1,000 to $1,500 a month. So the gal was a little behind on her payments, not even a full month, but she was getting dinged like a several $100 late payment. I'm assuming she had credit cards. She was also rehabbing houses at the time. She was getting slammed, and she was focusing on her day business, trusting a property manager at night. And that property manager was bending this person over. And I was just infuriated. And it was so crazy. So here's some things that I found on her financials that you as investors, and again, I want to be clear, this is not some deal like, wow, I'm just cool, I acquired these properties. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm locked into this deal. It could go sour at any moment, meaning the bankruptcy attorney can go after these assets, and it could be a legal nightmare. But hey, what's the worst thing that can happen? What do I have invested in the situation? My time and a lot of time, and that's it. And now I'm managing properties, which is what I do all day long. Well, here's some things that I found on her financials that really just broke my heart. Number one, the one thing she said, she had a unit that was available, and okay, let me get the key. Let me go in it. She said that the property manager said it needed carpet and paint. Let me get this straight. So this was like almost a 2,000 square foot crib. And if you run the numbers, $3 a square foot, let's just run the numbers. Let's just say you're savvy, and 2,000 square foot crib at $2 a square is 4 G's. And to paint a place like that, it's got to be at least 3 G's. So straight out the gate, she said that her property manager said that she couldn't rent the property because it needed carpet and paint, which on that size of structure at that location was going to need about 5 G's. I drove over there and the unit was pristine, clean, ready to roll, rent ready. What the is going on? It didn't need carpet. It didn't need paint. The carpet was okay. It could probably go another 10 or 2. The paint was blinged out fine. And I was like, what the? I was like, this can't be happening. And so I did a little bit more research just on that one unit. It sat for 60 days. Now, I know I'm a property manager. Life happens. Things are busy. So this investor, just try to paint a picture for you. Choking out 60 days, property manager saying, hey, you got to get you got to make this make ready, which is 5 G's. Hey, get it done. Wait a minute. No wonder she's going under, and it didn't need all that jazz. So when I acquired the property, I rented it out in 2 days. I mean, I put it on the market on Wednesday. I had at least people were moving in on Saturday. Now, I'm not some magical guy. I just called the internet, dropped it up on the internet. I lowered the price from $1,200 to $1,100. Didn't paint or carpet, and there's a family of 4 living in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2,000 square foot, happy as clams. And so then that's just one thing that you could. I'm trying to paint a picture, see how this investor went down. You need to know this. So I started really digging into all the financials, and I saw a lot of things like Jimmy's Heat and Air Service, $500 for a blower motor. And I was like, wait a minute. And then come to find out, I make some phone calls. I found someone that used to work for this property manager, and they said that they would bill at this rate, and they had staff there. So what they were doing is, for example, Jimmy worked for the company at an hourly, say, full-time rate, went out there, changed out the blower motor, let's just say 3 or 4 hours. Let's just say we're paying Jimmy $25 an hour. You know, a real heat and air tech, maybe $45. I don't want to get into semantics here, but let's just say for fun, $75. Let's just say for $50 an hour, Jimmy rolls out there, swaps out a blower motor on a condenser or a blower, whatever a freaking blower motor is. I'm talking about a staff member. I'm not talking about calling Jimmy Jack's, heat and air. That's, let's say $150, $100 for the part, $250. She was getting billed $500. I looked at her make ready was several $1,000s. Carpet and paint quite often. Now, this property manager, if you think about property managers, they want the best product possible. If the best product's possible, if leases the fastest, and they get the most for it. Now, I get it. Now, I'm kind of a middle grade landlord. I'm not super blinged out granite, but I'm not also going to, have roaches everywhere. I'm not a slumlord. But I would just assume, reading all her financials, that this property manager was calling her every other month or taking her money and saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, and getting top rent. And this poor investor was not paying attention to the numbers. Now, my mentor would just, if he was listening to this, he would just like, see, Stephen, I tell you, know the numbers. You need to know what every detail, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm trying. And my heart breaks. This person, this investor that basically just came out of nowhere and blessed me with this is just insane. Like, my heart breaks. And so as I've been going through this acquisition and holding their hand and going through the whole process, I was like, man, this could be me. This could be you. And I really wasn't going to do this podcast because it just looks so crazy. $700,000 properties, no money down. Now, let me tell you something. Let me say how I structured this deal. First of all, I took the properties over subject to, I deeded the loan, everything I could into a land trust. Into that land trust, I created, from that land trust, I put that in the beneficiary to my LLC, and then I created a whole LLC based around this asset and for protection, insurance, and blah, 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 blah. So that's how I did it. LLC, land trust into an LLC. So that's how you structure the deal. Now, I'm exposed in some regard. Like, for example, the bankruptcy attorneys could go after these assets. She couldn't sell them, and so there's a risk there. I am outlaying. I did have to outlay some tax stamps. I did have to outlay some management stuff and cleaning, but my goal here is that the maturity period of this yield maintenance, and that's another thing that when I was going through every single detail with this investor, is that she just was upset that she did a refinance and that she didn't read the documents. She didn't know it was so many documents, and she had so many emails back and forth with this lender of confusion. And I understand. I borrow money. There's a lot of documents, and you just want to get the deal done. You just want to move on and do what you're good at. That's another thing that I learned through this transaction. Make sure you thoroughly understand where you're borrowing money from. How are they servicing the money? What's the fees? What's the late fees? What's the insurance requirements? What's the escrow requirements? You got to need to know that. Now, you have to understand. So then I had to communicate this to the seller, the investor, what I was doing. I had to walk her through that whole process. Now, this wasn't an easy task. It took several weeks, a lot of paperwork, and then finally I had to show up to closing. And when you go to closing, you got to have a unique title company that understands both sides of the fence. The cool thing is that this title company knew myself, knew the seller, knew the situation, that this investor was not heading in the right direction, and that we looked, my company, we looked like we were helping them, and in essence we were. And it's just sad that this gal worked so hard, but one day things will turn around after this whole bankruptcy settles out and the loan maintenance. We'll see where this goes. But right now I'm on the hook for 7 properties valued at $700,000 roughly, with a mortgage on it for $500,000. Now I got to eke it out. I got to hustle. I already had a tenant we got to evict. I got to get the ball rolling. So that's the deal. I know it's kind of all over the place. I would love for you to email me, text me if you have any questions, anything that I didn't say properly that I need to clarify. But here's one thing I want to let you know is, what did I learn from the situation? Recap. Number 1, property managers, watch out. Seriously. And people say that I tease realtors a lot. Man, I'm about to jump all over property managers. Like, the thing is like, the property manager, they have no risk in the game. You buy the property, you finance it, you maintain it with your money, and the property manager just leases it out. Yeah, yes, or no. Know your numbers. Trust your property manager. And, I was talking to an out-of-state investor the other day. They have 3 property managers lined out. Just in case one falls through, they have a backup. Man, I didn't even think of that. I talk about that in my green book, the hiring contractors. You should have at least 3 deep contractors. I would say 10 to be overzealous. But, if a heat and air guy doesn't call me back, I got another one. Man, I never thought about a property manager. Property managers are human. They make mistakes. I get it. I'm a property manager. I get it. I deal with tenants. I deal with all the drama. And, it's a tiring, no reward business, and you're eking out 10%. Ask a lot of questions. I'm on both sides of the fence. That's what I learned too. I didn't think I could do this deal. I didn't understand the whole bankruptcy situation, bankruptcy attorneys. I talked to a regular attorney, a real estate attorney. I'm burning up all kinds of money doing title searches, but I think it was worth it. Be legit, above board. I was straight up honest with this gal from the beginning. I've done a subject to before. I'm kind of new at it. This is what my plan is. This is what I'm going to do. This is what my 2.5-year plan is, and I'm consistent in everything. A lot of people, they're like, how are you going to take care of this girl? I'm going to take care of this girl. I've taken care of this girl in many ways as an investor. And some investors, I tell about this story, they're like, why? She's going to walk away from it. Man, she picked up the phone and called me. I also have a partner on this deal to help me with anything that goes down in the future. Some investors, why do you have to have a partner? No, I don't have to have a partner, but I'm telling you, life is a lot better when 6 months, 8 months from now, say 7 of those units need new central heat and air. Okay. Well, that's at least 5 G's. At that point in time, I may be in another acquisition and I may not have 5 or 10 G's. So that's another reason why I partner with someone through this transaction, someone that had some experience, someone that can help me through that process. There's so many working parts. You got to build rapport with attorneys, friends, other investors. If you have a problem and you need help, call someone. So that's it. Subject 2 gone down in the history books. I appreciate all the people that have assisted me, helped me, encouraged me, pushed me. I couldn't have done it without you. I hope and seriously encourage you that this podcast wasn't about me and, oh, wow, I got this. Yeah, it's cool. It's sexy. But the reality is, I don't know, today it is, tomorrow I can get a run on my tenants. So you just don't know where these things go, but you have to push through. You've got to make a decision, good or bad. If you're going to fail, pick up the pieces and move on. This investor, she's an amazing rock star person. I know she's going to come back and crush it. It might take 3 years, 5 years. Life will be grand because she'll know how to do it and do it 10 times. That's why I love Henry Ford when he said, this guy, you got to read about Henry Ford, okay? I mean, first of all, Ford, is an American company. Give it up. But number two, they didn't go for the bailout. Number three, he said in a quote, you could take all my millions, let's say AKA billions away, and I can earn it back. That's the process. If you don't go out and do deals, you're never going to go through the process and learn. So learn as much as you can. If you made it this far, 20 minutes, you learned something. My name is Steven Van Kallenberg. I am the Savvy Landlord. I would love your comments and feedback. Other than that, if you've done a subject too, I'd love to hear about it. I'm still growing, still learning, and I want to learn more.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at SavvyRadioShow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.